Hello everyone, my name is Alfie Terry and today I'm going to be interviewing my father, Francis Terry, about an essay he wrote, and this was a bit of a sort of experiment you did on our dog. So we got this dog and what we found is that it tended not to like the more contemporary kind of music that me and my brother were playing at home, Tupac and whatever else, but he did seem to really like the classical music, like Mozart and whatever else. And so my dad wrote a blog about this. And I suppose, what do you glean from that, Dad? Like, why did our dog
Well, I
Bobby?
think it's sort of fascinating, really, that a love of beauty
Yeah, yeah.
transcends the species.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I found it sort of hugely surprising that you sort of think that music is culturally sensitive to a particular
Yeah.
period and era for humans, but even dogs like it. And while doing that essay, I discovered that there was some research that suggested that dogs. I'm not the first person to discover this, and
Yeah, yeah.
that when they have dogs in pounds, they often play them classical music, and it calms them down. And if you play them, AC/DC or whatever,
Yeah.
it makes them bark and aggressive. So it is a. I think it's fascinating.
It is, yeah. I mean, I was a bit skeptical about this originally when you first said it, but then I realised that if you go to a McDonald's in, late at night when everyone's sort of going out and drinking, they will play literally Mozart to calm people down.
Mozart,
Yeah, it is sort of quite recognisable stuff.
right?
And I just found it so interesting, and it works as well. Like, it's really relaxing just being in a McDonald's and hearing some nice relaxing music. And if you've sort of been you've hit the town and gone out in quite a stimulating environment, suddenly it's quite soothing. And
Yeah,
yeah.
and if they played something aggressive, they'd
Oh
have a
yeah.
fight on their
Yeah, I'm
hands.
sure. I'm sure it's like well researched, like why they do that. So it's very fashionable these days to say that beauty is very much in the eye of the beholder, or the society you live in, and different societies like different types of music, and it's all very personal. But this seems to really sort of crush that open and sort of say no, there's something that's objectively good about certain types of music, certain maybe even certain types of architecture. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you can see where this was
Yeah,
going.
yeah,
I was saying, maybe there's a type of architecture
yeah, yeah.
which can stop crimes, which can make people feel good about themselves. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, you get onto sort of quite deep, sort of Platonic arguments on this. Is there a kind of a kind of perfect music that somehow chimes with creation and yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery to me. I do think, though, there's something in the intention in, say, a piece of Mozart versus a piece of AC/DC,
Yeah.
where the intention is to be beautiful and to be harmonious. That is the intention.
Yeah.
And I think if you're intending to be aggressive and discordant, I think dogs pick up on that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is, I suppose, my analogy with architecture is that classical architecture aims for peace and tranquility. And if you take the brutalist movement, it aims to be brutal. And I think that we pick up on that
Yeah.
aim.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe it's as simple as that. I mean, there's obviously the argument that if you get two strings of the same tension,
Yeah.
like two violin strings of the same tension, and have one half the length of the other,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be violin strings; it could be elastic bands, and then you pluck that. That's an octave. Which sounds beautiful. Why should the ratio 1 to 2 have a beauty to it? And if you get it slightly wrong, it sounds discordant.
Yeah, and I guess the same is kind of true with columns. There are quite stringent rules about a column. It depends on the column, but it should be 9 of the diameter.
Yes, 9 for Ionic, 10 for Corinthian. There is that, and I think that cubes and so on. There is a kind of love of the sort of Platonic solids. I don't really know how I haven't really got to the bottom of it, but I was just taking the idea of the dog.
Yeah.
And then trying to see if, architecture being frozen music, there is an architectural equivalent to the Mozart effect in McDonald's.
Yeah.
Certainly some colours, it's just kind of like, just discordant to the eye, and others are more soothing.
I suppose what you're saying is, like a lot of people would say, if you look at the only reason people like classical architecture is because they look at it and it's like, oh, I've seen that Ionic there before, and it all kind of fits together in some sort of rich argument, or like they like a piece of Mozart because they've been educated about music and stuff like that. But what you're saying is it kind of goes beyond that, and there's something platonic.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
And maybe it comes down to the science of sound or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also think that there's the kind of spirit of how it's done. Do you want to do something that's peaceful and harmonious, or do you want to do something that's aggressive? A dog will pick up on an aggressive voice.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, AC/DC's kind of, to take your example, has kind of achieved its aim. It doesn't want peace.
No, exactly. And it's like if you tell off a dog, it will know you're cross with it.
Yeah.
Whilst if you go, oh, sweet little puppy. It will like that.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's that sort of thing. But what I find interesting about this is that there has been a study where someone took some crime-ridden sort of downtown central city area, someone like, I don't know, Detroit or somewhere.
Yeah.
And cleaned it up, took all the rubbish away, and just painted the buildings, cleaned away the graffiti, and planted a little bit of grass and a few bushes, and put a bench there. And that actually reduced crime. And I think, there are people putting trees in places like Scunthorpe and so on. I suppose it's the sort of I think it's the intention. It's the of the people who've done it. You feel this is a sort of safe place now, although it is no different.
I mean, I guess with classical architecture, is what you're saying, that it's more to do with the intention rather than a specific architectural style in and of itself.
Maybe.
I think almost classical architecture almost has that along with it, because it's so much about what's gone before, and you're kind of connecting the area to past societies. So maybe it's kind of built into it.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think that there has been. There are very sort of subtle. I mean, for example, a conventional column, you have a capital at the top, a shaft, base, and if you go to a shop and buy something, or you go to a restaurant, you don't just go, "Give me that." You go, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And that might be all you say. You say, "Hello, how are you?" That's the kind of capital. That might develop into, "Oh, not so bad." Nice that the weather's good. And you say, "Oh, I love one of those buns," and maybe a coffee to go with that. And that's the real conversation. And then you round it up with, well, maybe see you next week.
That's a really good point.
And I think that is the classical column. It's got a beginning, middle, and end. And I think that the modern equivalent is just a pilotti, which is a stick. It's got it's just brutal.
That's
give
a really
me
good point.
cake.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. And I suppose it's the niceties. It's the well-mannered architecture. People
Yeah.
like manners. I mean, it sounds awfully bourgeois.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people kind of, and I get it, and I think that from the First World War onwards, there's been a fear of conventional society because it caused such horrific things like the First World War. People from neighbouring countries killing each other. And you think there must be something wrong with this society. And I think in with that, there became a reaction to manners and all the kind of nice things, which is the very glue of society, actually. So I'd say, classical architecture is an architecture with manners.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I do think, like, so many manners seem very superficial, but you actually take them out and life becomes very soulless. And
I think that's very true. And I think that people in relationships, they underestimate how important superficial relationships are. I mean, like, for example, I walked down a high street just before I came, and I saw this woman I don't know her very well. I just waved, I remembered her name. And I think you need a whole load of different levels of friendship. Not all friendships are intimate, or there's superficiality is good. I also think that a kind of, this is what classicism is so good, is that there are rules that, when you have a Corinthian order, it's 10 diameters high and the tablature is 2 above. That's the
end
rule.
of story.
And you can, I mean, I find it really difficult, and this may be a kind of post-COVID thing, is I don't know whether to shake people's hands, I don't know whether to kiss them, I don't know whether to hug or just bob around in a kind of
I know what you mean.
COVID-y way. And and you have to think so quickly. It's like, which one am I supposed to do? And they kind of glide towards you. Oh, right. A handshake seems so formal. I just wish we did one thing. Someone agreed. This is what we do. And I suppose that's the great thing about classical architecture. It's an agreement. It's a bit old. It's a bit fusty. It's not down with the kids. I just really want to be down with the kids. This is how you behave in a civilized society. And I mean,
it almost doesn't matter what it is, but you just need, like, I remember when I went to Romania, all the guys you'd meet, you'd always shake their hands.
Right.
Like, even if you knew them, it's just what you do. Or you kind of go to, like, more French society and you always kiss.
And there's the number of kisses.
But what I quite like about that is it's just what you do. And, like, once, because I feel like it would feel quite awkward to do that in the UK, but, like, when you know that's the rules, it's just like, okay, this is what we do, and it doesn't feel awkward anymore.
I mean, that is in a way the problem with modern architecture. And I remember years ago I helped out a modernist architect teach students. And their job was to design a little rotunda, a little kind of sort of round building with some columns. And he said, I just think people should know how to do classical architecture. And he observed me talking to these pupils, and he said, it's incredible. You just go up to them and you look at their little rotunda and you say, and I say things like, oh, look at Palladio for this. He'll tell you how many diameters high the column is. Use the same base moulding. I'd probably go to Vignola for the cornice. Or if you're spacing modillions, make sure you look at Gibbs, or whatever it was. And I could just tell him what to do. And he said the trouble with modernism, a bit like the handshaking, kissing, what do we do? You have to kind of reinvent it for yourself. And I think that reinventing things is, well, it's madness, actually, because you want to benefit from what people have done before, what went well, what went badly. You know, if you live your life as an experiment, and I do think that is a post First World War thing, which actually has tentacles going back, I think, back to the Enlightenment, where they were obsessed with essays to try, essay to try, you know, to experiment effectively. But for a lot of things, you don't want to experiment. You want to say, this is what we do. And I also think that when you look at cities, that you look at Georgian architecture, most of its background is just nicely proportioned windows with a roof, done. And if you look at say Canaletto's painting of Venice, 90% of it is just Venetian background, really beautiful background. That's all it is. And they just had an aesthetic sense that was all agreed upon, and that's what they did.
Well, I think Jordan Peterson said, just do what everyone else does, unless you have a good reason not to. I think there's a lot in that.
Yeah, definitely.
Does classical architecture or architecture in general have a moral quality to it, or is that a step too far?
Well, I mean, if you take that scenario I was talking about, where you clean up a downtown area of Detroit and put a park bench and so on, that obviously does have a moral effect on, if it works, on those people temporarily. I do think one is in slightly dangerous territory on this, because they've, particularly in the Victorian age, John Ruskin said a lot about kind of how, interestingly, classical architecture was immoral because it came from a pagan base. And he felt that Gothic was the kind of the Christian style. And I think that everyone's always trying to feather their own nest. You know, my architecture is the moral architecture, and that's been done by the modernists, like, more than anyone. That this is, and you see it with the sustainability people as well now, that they want to have the moral high ground. That's what they're after. So I sort of don't really want to play that game. I do think, though, that there is something in building beautiful things that are made by craftsmen and women well. It gives you a sense of enormous well-being, and you feel that the society is here to stay, and I don't have to cause a revolution. And that this is a peaceful place where I can bring up my family, and I can grow old here. And I think that if everything's discordant, and this is the trouble, is that most of our cities are discordant. And when people want pleasure, they go to the south of France or Greece, to a nice place, with little Greek villages. And I think before travel, you know, someone like Bernini only left Rome once to go to see Louis XIV. Otherwise, he was in Rome. And his holidays were in Rome. And this is what I see in Ipswich near us, is rich people are not investing in towns. They're just, the towns are so dreadful. They don't have civic, you know, the building at the centre of Ipswich, amazing sense of civic pride. You know, and you just wouldn't get a rich person going, I know, I'm going to invest in Ipswich. And I guess it's travel is the problem. That we're making really discordant places because they're functional, because you can get to them quickly. But we don't have to live in them because we fly elsewhere on holidays.
That's a really good point. Just to touch on the sort of idea of ornaments and sort of making things look pretty, I think was it Adolf Loss who wrote that thing about ornament and crime? Which is quite interesting, that the more refined a culture is, the less ornament it has. But I think what you're saying is something slightly different, that once you get rid of the ornament, it's like there's no, you just see your hometown as in a very utilitarian way.
Yeah. Yeah, and also what makes it your hometown.
Yeah.
You know, the ornament is the thing that tells the stories. That it's everything from the way that, you know, if you just got a plain facade with no ornament, the light can't diffuse. You know, if you look at a rich classical facade, there are some bits that are in full light. The column will be in half light. Then there'll be a swag or a bit of decoration or a bit of sculpture that will be in kind of pixelated light. You know, there's a whole rich tapestry of different lights. I think, yes, it's interesting, the Adolf Loos thing. And that was the tendency of the the early 20th century, was a kind of feeling that, and he would say that the sort of primitive societies tattooed themselves because and he said, well, you'd expect them to, because but now we're civilized. We can now live in this very sleek, very and there was that kind of desire for things that were clean and crisp, and there is a certain beauty to that, particularly if you're thinking of. It's difficult to go back, I imagine there were slums in Vienna which were pretty inhospitable, and you wanted some sanitized, clean, crisp thing. And that's very much what they wanted. But I think, it slightly reminds me of that Nietzsche quote, which is, God is dead. And then he said, we must now play sacred games. God is dead, we killed him. And we must now play sacred games to make up for it. And I think that it depends how you look at it, but what I think he was meaning was that the whole kind of trajectory of Western society from kind of Plato onwards had been kind of called into question. And then you need something to replace it. And this is my kind of worry, is that so many things have been lost or questioned, and then there's nothing to replace them. Like people saying grace before a meal, which would be done quite universally 100 years ago in the 1920s. And that's not done now, which is fine. But it would be lovely if it was replaced by something, again, a column and a base. That it isn't just meal. There's a ceremony to life, and I feel that the kind of trajectory of modernism is, we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that. And there is, you'll probably know this, there is some analogy about a fence in a field, which is traditional. There's something like, if you can't work out why it's there, or maybe it was a hedgerow, you don't just take it out for the sake of it, because there will be a reason for it. And I think, well, no, just I think that going back to your Adolf Loos quote, is that things have been stripped out, and then things haven't been replaced.
I mean, I can kind of see because he was kind of the 1920s, wasn't he, or maybe a bit before, but I can kind of see how you could look at the start of the 20th century and kind of see, this seems to be what's going on. You simplify things so it's really sleek. And it is quite a compelling argument, I guess. But it's not actually, I don't think it's not really how it's turned out, because I think you do need a bit of mess here and there in the right places. Just otherwise it looks very, very sanitized.
Bit sort of humanity. I know. I it was put very well by Sir John Summerson, who was a really great writer on architecture, and he said that what happened was that in the Victorian era, you had a whole load of architects doing all these different styles, Gothic, classical, Rococo, Baroque, whatever, mixing them up like the Paris Opera House, I love all that stuff, obviously. And meanwhile, you got Brunel doing the Clifton Suspension Bridge, which is this sleek, empty thing, and it based on modern science. And then you got ocean liners, and you've got a whole load of things that are, I suppose, just sleek and modern,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and on the kind of winning side. And there's these old people kind of still saying, "Oh, we need to get our Mendelian spacing to
Yeah,
work with
yeah,
our
yeah.
columns," and you think it all seems a bit irrelevant. And I think there's true, but I mean, in a way, the God is dead from the Nietzsche thing. There are lots of things wrong with religion, and it's got a lot to answer for.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
take it away, you've lost something.
yeah.
And you
Yeah.
need to replace that with something intentional in a way. Otherwise, it will be replaced by something which you don't particularly want, because that gap will be filled, I suppose. And I suppose
Yeah.
architecturally, it's a similar thing.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I think modernism often thinks it's kind of a sort of post-architecture thing in a way, that it's almost a sort of invisible form of architecture, but I think it's not. It's a style. You can't just not have any modillions or whatever.
Yes.
You've got to replace it with something.
Yes.
You can't just
Yes.
have no modillions.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And that becomes a style in its
Yeah,
own right,
yeah, yeah.
which people will copy and emulate.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
in a
and
way,
same with religion. You can't just have no religion. You're going to have something,
a set of morals.
a set of morals. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Well, on that note, yeah, I think that's really interesting. And if you guys have found this interesting, you can check out the whole essay on the websites, and we've also got a book edition as well. And we'll be doing a few more of these, so look out for them as well.